All right. Think that's live. Lights, lights, daytime. Move the mic, but keep it over here because we got to do some setting up. I didn't do all the setting up like I normally do, so let's get the first thing set right here, and then we will go into a mild channel and life update. Let's do that. So, what? There, we got that. We will start with there. I know that's set up, and I know that I have this. Hey man, what's going on? We'll get to you here in a second. Oh yeah. And then yeah, that'll start us off. So there's that. Let's make sure I got this thing working. Yes, there you are. What's up? All right. So, channel update. So let's do that real quick. First off, if I'm not mistaken, let me go in here and double check it. I am currently finishing up the editing for 10/29/25. That is very close to being done, and then I'm not 100% sure what the next one is. I do have a Reptilax video that's coming out and the Mortal Kombat book stops thing that's coming out, talking about those. So those are going to be coming out, and it looks like I have still 58 videos. 58 videos to cut. Oh my God. It's wild to me. Like, because I don't feel like we're behind because we do the lives. So everything that I do is up to date. But then I'm editing stuff that's like 4 or 5 months back. Like, it's kind of wild to me when I really think about it. Like, but whatever. We'll get there. I'm not as concerned about it as I used to be. I'm getting it done little by little, trying to catch us up, and heck, if I never make it, then whatever. I guess I don't care that much anyway. But we'll figure it out. Yes, it is pretty early today. What's going on? I'm hoping that this can become kind of a Sunday morning, maybe around 10 o'clock to like 1 o'clock. Get our Sunday, get it in here, get the live done, maybe catch a couple people that I know it's easier for them in the morning and whatnot, and things like that. What's going on? Yes, 58 videos still left to be cut that I have thumbnails for, but the videos haven't been cut yet. It's crazy. Like, it's crazy. It's how far behind I am. Hey, what's going on, man? That's awesome. So, did I see the tease posted by Dan Young this? No, I did not. So I don't know what it is that you are referencing yet. I do not know. But another update, and this is a little different, and I don't know 100% what I'm going to do with it or how I'm going to work it at all. I really don't. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. For a while, I have been debating going back to writing. I mean, it's been in my mind for a very long time to actually go back and start writing again. I used to write all the time. I wrote, this is going to sound wild, but I'll tell you a little bit about my writing history just to get it out there, okay? I wrote books, started writing books when I was in like 5th grade. I know that's about ridiculous, but I did. I really liked stuff like Goosebumps and things like that. I was reading that, and then I started wanting to try my own hand at it. So I wrote like a couple werewolf books and things like that. Nothing, but here's the thing. I wrote 5 books. I know I'm not, but I'm not, this is going to get really complicated. I'm not published. I wrote 5 books when I was growing up. All the way throughout grade school, junior high, high school, I was writing. I would write these books, and I would get them done. I would do them in those like binders that we had, the 3 rings, and you just turn the page, and I kept writing on both sides, and I would get to somewhere around like 400 pages or something like that, and I'd be like, that's great, that's my book. And then, I don't know why, I would just pass these things around. I wrote this one book that was kind of like roughly based on an RPG type of thing. I wrote like a D&D book, basically. It was basically like a campaign that I wrote down. I wrote a werewolf book, things like that. But I would get them done, and then I would just give them to somebody. Hey, check this out. And then they'd read it and they'd be like, this is actually really good, like way better than I thought it was. And then I'd be like, cool, this person wants to read it. So I'd take it from them and I'd give it to somebody else. And it would just kind of like get passed around to like 20, 30 people. And then I don't know what happened to them. In fact, it would not shock me completely if one of those books had been published and like somebody made money off them and it was my book. It like really wouldn't surprise me because I wrote the whole thing. I wrote the entire book. It was done. And then I was just giving it to people. Hey, check this out. I wrote this book. And they'd be like, oh yeah, this is really good. And then they'd pass it to this person, pass it to this person, pass it to this person. And then it would get lost somewhere around summer vacation or whatnot. And then I'd just start writing another one. I remember some of these. And then I wrote short stories for a class, a short story class that, ironically, I was not in. I was not in that class. But somebody had asked me to write some of their stories for them. And I wrote their stories for them. And I got paid in breadsticks. It's a real story, okay? I know how it sounds. Basically, they were in a writing class for short stories. They didn't want to write the stories, but they wanted the college credit. They knew that I wrote stories, so they asked me to do so. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to write stories. And they're like, tell you what, if you write my short story for me, I will take you to Tyrone's and I will buy you the breadsticks thing. Because they had this thing where you would buy like 6 breadsticks and it'd come with like nacho cheese and whatnot. And these were good breadsticks. These were good breadsticks. And I was like, oh yeah, no, absolutely. So I wrote their stories for them. 2 of the stories that I wrote for them, 2 of them, got published. But not under my name. See? Because I wrote the story and it went to them. It went to them and they took it to their class. And their teacher liked said story. And then they asked if they could publish it in one of those magazines. I want to say both of them ended up in that Highlight magazine years ago as short stories in Highlight. But they're not under my name because, see, if they're under my name, it would have then been known that said person did not actually do their homework, that I did their homework. So I am technically published twice with no credit whatsoever. And I've written 5 books, but none of them were ever published because they just got passed around from person to person to person. That's it. Then I went on to like writing D&D campaigns and things like that. And I, of course, have wrote scripts and things for like YouTube shows and everything like that. And I've done a bunch of other stuff over the years. And I've done like what ifs where I do like rewrites of scripts that exist and talked about them on podcasts and stuff like that. So I've done all of this stuff. Well, about a month ago, I sat down and I got it in my head that I wanted to write again. But I want to do it a little more seriously. So I started. I wrote a draft, expanded on it a little bit, played with a concept, came up with something, and it's done now. The first one is done now. It's highly inspired. It's a short story. It goes back to things like Xena, Conan the Barbarian, and things of this like. And I purposely wrote it in that style. It's got a lot of my own ideas in there, but it's written in a very, I'll call it Robert E. Howard's style. The first one that I've done it's completed. It's called The Rut. Let me load it up right here. It's 42,782 characters, 220 lines, 1,240 columns. It's done. It's a short story. It's done. Now to be honest though, I don't know what my next step is. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I don't know. I've never actually published myself, so I don't know if I'm going to post this somewhere or if I'm going to look into getting it published in something. And I don't know what I would send this to, but I'm thinking about taking this seriously this time, and I'm thinking about writing. So that it's done. My first one is done, and I've already got plans for the next like 2 or 3 short stories, but I'm very much taking an aspect of Conan. I'm writing a story with a character called Bara Blondis, and there's 5 or 6 other characters I have in mind to play out a building universe, all short stories, adventures happening in this one area, but different people in different situations, and then possibly seeing how those situations affect each other as I go through. I don't know yet, but it's just a matter of figuring out what I'm going to do with it. That is I know because I start these with channel updates. That is a channel update for me, just to let you know that if this starts going somewhere, if I start doing something with this, I am going to start publishing, and I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know if I'm going to have to make a collection of short stories myself and publish a book, or if I'm going to start publishing these with somebody. Like, I don't know what magazines or whatnot exist that still do this kind of stuff. Like, because like things like Robert E. Howard and whatnot was published in like Strange Tales. And I'm sure that something like that still exists, but I don't know what I'm looking for or what I should do with that information. But that's the last part of my channel update, is that I'm gonna take this seriously. I'm gonna move forward with this. And the first one is done. I just don't know 100% what to do with it now that it's done. Let's see. Marvel Legends 1. So let's set that up, and then we will go to the chat. Okay, we have... You stay there. What are you? Oh, that's right. And then, oh, that's right. I forgot. Okay. There. That should be everything. Start that. All right. Grab your Cocoa Puffs. It's time for a toy commercial. So, he said that Dan posted something. I'll have to look up what that is. I don't know what he teased. Alone again. Paid in breadsticks. Simpler to... It was. It absolutely... I'll make you a breadstick you can't refuse. I know this sounds ridiculous, but I'm telling you, there's this local restaurant in my area. It's called Tyrone's. It's pretty much been a staple of my community for as long as I can remember. I've seen 100 other restaurants show up, and 100 of them go out, and 100 businesses show up, and 100 go out. But this one place has been there since I was born and is still there. And I don't know what's going on, but I'm telling you, they have the best breadsticks that I could think of from anywhere. Like, I know everybody's like, oh man, Olive Garden. Tyrone's. 100%. And, yeah, I wrote those books for bread. Re-listening to What's Up episode, already up to episode 46, skipping around though, so it's not that impressive, but it was 15 to 20 episodes for starting today. Dang! It's actually pretty cool. Always follow your aspirations. I'm actually trying this time, yes. Also, if you need me to write better backstories for my characters in that universe, let me know. You're talking about the D&D campaign, and this is definitely a separate thing. It's relatively 1,000 years after the D&D campaigns that I've been running, so I know the world settings very well, but I'm playing with something else. Kind of did something similar when I was young, where I had ideas, drew them as comic book covers, though they were science fiction cyberpunk. Reminds me of the Green Ranger Alone again you wrote. That interests me. Are you talking about, because I did a lot of these where I would write down a concept or whatever, because I knew that we were going to do an episode where we were going to talk about what ifs and things like that, and then I would tell them how I rewrote something or wrote something in general, and I did it for the podcast over and over and over again. Where are we at? Oh my gosh. Of course. We are 3 minutes in, 3 votes, 3-way tie. And nobody wants to see Captain America. I'm going to end up opening him on my own, I imagine. That's not a bad thing. He'll still get a video, he'll still get a talk. But I'm noticing he's been in here, I think 3 votes now, and he has not landed. I don't think he's landed a single vote. Because, and I imagine part of this is that everybody already knows what it is. It's not like it's a new figure, it's an old figure. And so I imagine that's part of it. As for these, okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to call it, and I'm going to pick one. And there's a reason that I'm going to pick her as the one I want to talk about. Because I want to talk about a very weird flaw in this figure that nobody is pointing out. Nobody. And it confuses me. Has nobody noticed it? And I would like to say mine is weird, but you know what? It's figure time. Let's do this. Magic. This figure is... See that? That's what it's like to have a husky. My husky wants to go outside, so let's hold on this. We will come back and do this. Let me let the dog out. The dog needs to go outside because she's not going to give up. She's going to stand at that door and bark at me, and then we're going to come back. We're going to talk about this because there's a weird flaw in this figure, and it's not just mine. I thought it was, but it's not. Did you knock on my door, bark at me, and then go into go into Gwen's room? Are you wanting to go out? You want out? Go ahead, baby. Go. Huskies. Let's try this again. Magic. Here she is. It's a good figure, right? I bought this figure because, first off, that's Colossus' sister. I need that. And it's Kitty Pryde's best friend. I need that. Also, what a trip she has had. And now with the new one coming out, it's almost imperative that I open this one because I'm going to have the younger version of her. And that's actually pretty cool. So now I could put them both on the shelf and kind of have like a progression. I really like this figure. I do. But I noticed something. There's a weird flaw in this figure that nobody is talking about. As of yet, I haven't come across anything that mentions this. So I started thinking maybe it was just mine. But then I noticed something. It's on the renders. Like the character renders. And then I noticed that when I went a little further, I went to a convention and I found one. And I brought it up to him and I said, have you ever noticed that there's something wrong with this figure? And he goes, well, I don't see anything wrong. And I pointed it out to him. And I showed him the renders. And then he was like, what? I have never noticed that. So I said, well, it would be rare, but maybe we both have flawed figures. So I went over to another table at the same convention, found one, and found the same flaw, and realized it is on every single figure. And I don't know why. And when I open it, I'm going to be very interested to see what is going on. What am I talking about? You see that figure? We'll try to get it. Now, what is going on with that figure? That's weird. Most people don't see it. But it's also on this render. There's a QC issue that seems to be on every single one of these figures. If you haven't figured it out yet, if you don't see it yet, for some reason, and I don't know if they gave her like a cocked hip thing or what, and they like designed the body in a weird way, her leg isn't on there right. So her leg, okay, her leg here is fine. But her leg over here has a gap. This leg has a gap. And then I seen it back here. That leg has a gap. This one doesn't. What's going on? Is that built into the figure? I didn't just find it on this figure. I found it on 2 at conventions. At the same convention. But like, why? If I go in there, can I just move the leg a little bit and fix it? I don't know. Because it's on their promotional shot. There's a gap in that leg right there. And there's a gap in that leg right there. And it's on every single one of these figures as far as I can tell. And I've never heard anybody mention it. So let's open her. Let's check out her cool swords, because they're going to be cool. And let's see what's going on. This is so weird. Let's see. Let's open her. Let's find out. Okay, well, here she is. And I could probably show it even better now. But let's look at this figure. Focus on the figure. Okay. It's right here. There's a gap right there. The belt is a hanging part. The torso seems like... I think she does have like a mildly cocked hip. Maybe not. I don't know. Did I get it? Not completely, but I just kind of like forced it over a bit and I got rid of it for the most part, but it's still there. It's really hard to show, but do you see that? Do you see that there's like a small gap? It's not on the other leg. It's only on this leg. It's very weird. And it's not just on the figure, it's on the render. So the promotional render has this like gap right here. And the figure has this gap. And it's not a QC issue. It seems to be on every single one of these figures, specifically this magic. Whatever's going on, whatever they did with this body, it leans to one side. So while the ball joints and everything, like this leg is in there perfect, and both legs are in there perfect. That's not the issue. It's not like it's going to fall off or anything, but I can't even, I don't know. Hold on. Let me see if I can create it. I can kind of create the same thing here. And even if I turn it all the way in, let me turn it, it's like, even turning it all the way in, it's still there. I've got it mostly taken care of, but it's still there. That has a gap here that's not here. That is wild to me. So that's literally the way the figure is designed. I don't know. That's a weird thing I noticed with this that I haven't seen on most any other figure. And I just always thought it was really crazy. But, like, I mean, it's not going to stop me from liking the figure or anything like that. I don't care. But yeah, otherwise, is this not one of the craziest looks? Like, dude, she is super unique and always has been. This is a cool design. Like, it really is. Yeah, we're dealing with an older figure. We have the 90-degree elbows. You know that I'm not 100% sold on that, but we're not getting a new Magic. Well, okay. We're getting a new Magic, but we're not getting a new Magic. Like, we're not getting this one. We're getting the New Mutants one. Back up. Camera, listen. So, yeah, the hair is... This is the first time... Look at how much leeway we have in the hair. How come all the female hairs are not like this? This is good. This is not going to be in her way. These move. Like, how come all the female hair isn't done like this? Some of the female hair, most all of the female hair, is like a solid block that is literally in the way. It will not let their head move. I'm not going to have that problem here. We have the upper body torso movement. Otherwise, you know, you got the double knees and things like that. We're not going to have a problem there. I like that they did all these straps. This is cool. This is a cool design and always has been. I really like the way they do the boots and everything like that. This is a solid figure, and they really nailed that look. Aside from that weird like thigh gap weird thing that seems to exist that I don't know why it's there. Oh well. Otherwise, everything about the sculpting and everything, the face and all that, this is a very solid figure. No problem putting this on the shelf. It's going to be real cool to have her standing next to Kitty Pryde and have her best friend there and whatnot. That's really cool. This is so neat. The Soul Sword, but I'm going to be honest with you, I'm probably going to move this sword. I'm probably never going to give this sword to her. This sword is not the key attraction here. This one is. This is sick and always has been. She has one of the coolest weapons in Marvel. Like, so she's going to hold this sword. And this, I'm going to give this to Psylocke. I think that I could play this off as a form sword for Psylocke. That is cool. Otherwise, yes, we got these stupid little... We've got like 100 of these. These are so old now. And we've got this lightning effect that is actually for, you can wrap this around the Soul Sword and whatnot and get like this cool effect. That's pretty cool. Depending on how you want to use it, this effect really can pull its weight. It's good. It's a decent effect. And this can actually be moved to things like He-Man swords and things like that to do a transformation picture. She comes with 2 grip hands, which are already on the figure, and then she comes with an expression hand. We could always use an expression hand. I'm for the expression hands because I like the idea of having one that's holding the sword and then one that can brace it, or one that can kind of like put the hand out or something like that, or one that can swing while this hand's pulling back or something. I like that idea. This is really cool. I love the fact that we got this head with this articulated jaw. I might move this to Ghost Rider. In fact, I don't think I'm going to do it. But I did come across I already have the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider. I did come across the Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider with the bike. Seeing it in person, it looks good. It's one of those things where I seen it in the renders, and I said, he's got the all-red bike. Yes, that's comic accurate, but I don't think I care. And yes, that is not the suit that I've always liked. I grew up with... the one that I knew when I was growing up, the one that I read, that was Danny Ketch. I didn't read Johnny Blaze. So, like, I never thought too much about it. But, man, seeing that Johnny Blaze in person, that bike looks good, and that figure looks great. It's done so well that I almost feel like I should buy it. I don't know if they're going to get me on it. Who knows? But they might. And if they do, that's a good Ghost Rider head. That will be a good swap-in piece. Like, this is cool. This is really cool. And then, of course, the dragon. Which now I have both of them. And then we did get the new Kitty Pryde, which comes with a new dragon, the Lockheed Dragon, which is cool. But, like, I didn't buy that one, and nor do I need it, because I have a Kitty Pryde right there, and she has her dragon. So that's fine. I'm fine with that. This is a cool figure. When they announced they were going to do Magic, I thought we were getting this figure, this design, on the all-new female Buck. And I was like, yes, give me that. We did not get that. So we are still going to deal in pictures with the 90-degree elbows, which I've argued on here many times, and I get it. People like what they like. This doesn't bother everybody. It bugs me. You have no bicep movement. There's no swivel. There's a shoulder swivel, but no bicep swivel. And then you have a 90-degree shoulder, a 90-degree elbow. That hinders articulation massively. I'm not saying you won't be able to create some cool poses, but you won't be able to do everything that you can imagine. We need the double elbows, and we need the bicep movement if we are going to have full range of these characters. And lower torso movement is also important. She doesn't have any lower articulation. It's all in the upper. That's it. So all of her movements, all of her poses are severely limited. And I'm not 100% sure why I keep seeing people that are still kind of like... I see people that constantly go, oh yeah, well, that's really not that big of a deal. If you're posing, I feel like it is a big deal. I feel like figures need to have the bicep swivel and need to have the not the 90 degree, the 90, if you have an armored arm, I can accept that one of them is the 90 degree movement because there's a hindrance in the armor and it does kind of feel real. But I'm not a big fan of the 90 degree like elbow stop. I really don't like it. I think it hinders movement. And I think that you can't necessarily argue that if you're a fan of Marvel Legends, because we have seen if the 90 degree elbow was not a problem, if this was fine, it's fine, Bill, it's really not that big of a deal, then why is it that every single guy in this line has bicep movement and the double elbow? Why? Why do they have that? Because if you want to make a top of the line figure with maximum movement, it's required. But if you're going to cheap out and save a little bit of money on the female figures that you don't think are going to sell as much anyway, now it's okay. Now it's okay. That is pretty much all the information that I need. I could pull almost every single... In fact, I bet you I could. I bet you I could pull every single male figure off the shelf. And unless they are Hulk size, they all have double elbows, bicep movement. Every single one of them. Like, all of them. Every single one of them. Oh, minus one. That guy right there. See that Wolverine right there? I stand corrected. Back up. So that's fair. But that's the only one I can think of. Because they decided a long time ago that to get the maximum amount of movement out of every single one of these figures, they needed bicep swivel, and they needed the double elbow. So it kind of blows my mind when we've been getting these girls forever that don't have lower articulation. They don't have the bicep swivel. They don't have the double elbows. And everybody for the longest time just went, oh man, she's so great. This figure's so great. This figure is so hindered. And it is a problem that I have had with Marvel Legends for a very, very long time. But with characters like Psylocke coming into the mix, and the new Jean Grey they did, things of that nature, they're getting way better. now I'm just wishing for some consistency across the line. And now, I hate this. I hate that I'm even about to suggest this. But now they need to start re-releasing all the figures that we already have. I hate that I'm saying this, but it's true. They need to re-release almost every figure that we already have because they need to fix every single female in the line. Literally. We have Spider-Gwens that can't web swing because their lower torso doesn't move and because their arms won't allow them to do Spider-Man poses. We have Spider-Woman that can't move properly. We have ninja ladies like friggin' Elektra who can't move properly, who can't take ninja poses because they can't like bend over, they can't hunch. We have She-Hulk, I love that She-Hulk, but I'm going to call it out, that can't do a sit-up. You can't hit that pose. Their abs don't move. We need updates on pretty much every single female figure in the line. And I don't want to pay for them. But who am I kidding? If they start doing it, I will. But this is a problem that for the longest time, I was like everybody else. I said, okay, you know what? I don't have her. I'm going to get her. She looks good enough. She looks good enough. And I played the good enough game pretty much as up to the point of where I'm going to play it. You'll notice I like Colossus and Kitty Pryde. I didn't buy that 2-pack. And I didn't buy it specifically because of Kitty Pryde. The Kitty Pryde that I have, right down there, the Kitty Pryde that they just released, I feel you could argue has a better head. And they updated the arms. But that's it. She's still using that same female torso. She's still using the same, all her reliant movement is up here. It bugged me. Now, if you don't have a Kitty Pryde, that's a good figure. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But I think that I have actually reached a point where if I already have that figure, like if I already have the Jean Grey, right, and they release another Jean Grey, I'm not running out to get that other Jean Grey because I don't believe for a second that it's worth it. These female figures need to be updated to Psylocke status if they are basically a re-release, or they're not worth the buy-in. I think I've reached that point. Unless it is a literal thing that we don't have or have never had, it's not worth it anymore. So I'm kind of watching that. Like if the next time they release something, they release like say they release a Fantastic Four wave, and the Invisible Woman is just the classic Invisible Woman, and all they did was upgrade the arms. That's a problem, and we should be calling it out. Would I buy it? Should I call myself out? I don't want to. I'm not saying they won't still get me on this. There's a possibility that if it was a classic, not the black suit, I think that I'm happy with that one, and I think unless she was a fully updated figure, they couldn't get me again. But I think that the face and the arms are so bad on the classic Invisible Woman that maybe I would take their mild upgrade, but I would not be happy about it. Then yes, that makes me a putz. But I'm 100% here to say that there are problems in the line. We need to call them out. We need to be real about it. And whenever I can skip a figure, I have started to do so. And it's mostly in the females now. Mostly that's what I'm leaving behind with Marvel Legends because they simply are not up to the quality standard that they should be at. And I've said this before, so to end this chapter, look, if you want to know the quality of a line, look to their female figures. If the female figure is fantastic, expect that the whole line is going to blow you away. But if they're willing to cut corners on the female figures, you better believe that means they're willing to cut corners on most every other figure down the line if you give them the chance to do so. And where they're going to slack off, almost every single line consistently does it to the female figures. It's just the way that it is. You see it all the time. Thank you. That's crazy. Let's see. Yes. Lexi's been doing fine. Still kind of working with that, figuring out how she's actually going to take everything now that her life has kind of changed. But I think that we're going to be fine. In all honesty, break time. Everybody grab snacks. Perhaps a carbonated soda. Not really surprised. The same thing happened with the Doc Ock and Silk 2-pack. When the package, he clearly has pinless arms and legs, but in hand he's pinned. That comes down to those digital renders. That is, as far as I'm concerned, those preview pictures are important nowadays because most of us are buying online. I feel like that is a false advertisement. That picture is specifically there to show us what we are supposed to be buying. If the paint apps and the figure design is not what that preview is, you have lied to me as far as I'm concerned. I'm really getting fed up with that. They need to shut that down. That needs to stop happening because most of us are buying online, and a lot of these figures, you can't get them any other way. Like, you buy them online. There is no other choice. Let's see here. Let's do... Okay, we're leaving off. We're going to go from there. I do have some figures coming here in the next couple days that I'm very excited about. I don't know if they're even going to make the show. Like, they will probably get their own video the exact day they arrive on my doorstep. Old Hasbro days of promotional render not matching the final product to some extent. Yeah, but this one, it does match. There is a very weird... The leg doesn't go in all the way on the left leg. It is very weird, and it shows that in the product render as well as the actual figures. It's just a weird design flaw that seems to be built into every single one of the Magic figures. Design flaw when they designed her, they didn't measure something correctly for the mold. Right. This isn't the only version of this Magic. There was an SDCC book of Vishanti 5-pack that included her before they released this one. I actually did not know that. Yeah, I had no idea. What's up, man? Okay, let's see. I got a Reignition Power Morpher. Does it compare to the Legacy one? I'm actually curious about that because I noticed that it seems like a lot of the stuff that's coming out right now is not actually matching the quality that came out with Legacy. I can't wait for the Playmates Shogun Megazord. I don't think I've seen that. I seen not too long ago they were doing a really good Megazord on Big Bad, but I passed on it. I don't know what it's going to take for them to get me to buy another Rangers anything. I pretty much am set. I have the team that I want. I have my favorite. I have Zed. I need Rita. That's it. I think that's the only thing that can get me on at this point is I need a Rita. And then after that, I'm probably done. Like, I've got everything that I personally would want. In fact, maybe. I think the Super 7 sale, I think there is a Rita. I guess I would have to check her scale. Because I also don't want her to be ridiculous and, like, not match up with the Z that I have. So, I don't know. I'd have to play with it, I think. All I know is that whenever they reveal a comic book Black Cat or Elektra next, they better be on the new articulated buck. Yes! See, and that's absolutely. Would they get me on a Black Cat if they updated it most all of the way? I don't know. I would like to say no, that they won't. I would really like to say that they won't. But I don't have a comic book Black Cat. And I don't want to buy the one that's already on the market because I feel like she's so far behind the times, she desperately needs an update. Because she was behind time when she was released. Now she's way far behind the rest of the line. So I don't want that one. I want a new one. But I also would like it to be updated. Will it be updated? I don't know. Still wild to me that they solved this hair problem with soft plastics years ago and we still get the hard hair in 2026. Yes! Like, yes! Dude, it drives me crazy that we'll get somebody like Jean Grey and they'll put the hair in front and on the back and then, like, their head can't move. Like, they can't, they have zero, they can't even, like, they got nothing. And there doesn't seem to be any... I have not had that problem with a single Jada figure. And judging by this, they can do it. Because this hair is very much like that. It will just get out of the way. So they can do it. They don't do it. But why? What do you want the Zords to look like in the reboot? I'd like to see Zords that look like dinosaurs that can turn into humanoid robots. I don't know. I'll be very surprised if I watch the reboot. I don't know if they're going to get me on this at all. I'm just being honest with you. I don't know. I'm at this point where, like, I never even finished all the original stuff. And now they're talking about a reboot, which I guess is fine. Maybe if they did it right, they could fix a lot of because there's a lot of formula problems in Rangers. Rangers feels like the show it is. It's a formulaic nothing burger. Which is fine. It's worked for them for years. And if that's the kind of show it's meant to be, then that's the kind of show it's meant to be, and that's fine. I'd say the same thing about the original Star Trek. It's a very serialized, every single episode resets the continuity episode in the original series. And yet I really like the show. So I'm not saying that you can't do that. I'm not saying that it won't work. But, like, Rangers feels like it needs an overhaul on the way the shows work if you're ever going to move forward with what that is. Like, it has been formulaic to a T for, has it been 30 freaking years? That's a long time to show the same show over and over and over again with the same format, same design, and same stores. That's a long time. And I know that sometimes changing certain things can, like, backfire and it can ruin a show. So you don't want to go too far. But, like, you got to do something. Something has to change. I'm not sure that I know what that one even is. If you're talking about, like, the toys that are out right now, that Rita wouldn't work for me. Because I have the Lightning Collection Z. I have the Super 7 Throne. And I need a Rita that would match him. And she is very much built for what she is. She's meant to go, she's a kids line toy. There's nothing wrong with that. Kids need toys. I'm an advocate for that. I believe that kids need toys. I'm not one of those guys that's sitting here like, kids and their screen time. If you cripple your kid by taking away their screens, I'm not saying you allow them to be completely subverted and raised by them, but if you take away their screens, you are stunting their growth in a world that requires it now. We grew up in a time where it was a joke to make fun of the fact that your grandpa couldn't set up the VCR. That was a joke, but in some cases it was very real. My grandma would have me come over and set her stuff up for her. Where does the cord go? How do you use this? Explain this remote. What are the functions? They didn't know. That wasn't something that they grew up with. It wasn't something that they understood. And it wasn't something most of them were willing to learn. And then you get the same thing that kind of happens mildly with my generation. I work with a lot of people that are a little bit older than me or that are my age that do not understand computers, do not have a computer, do not want a computer, and do not want to learn. And then you bring them in where I work and you say, all right, so you got to get on the computer and just, it is amazing to watch them be like, what? Like they can't do it. And this one guy, I remember, this guy's a supervisor now. Push that to the side. But I remember I opened a tab and I remember him blatantly going, what'd you just do? What are you talking about? What'd you just do right there? Oh, I just opened another window, another tab. And he goes, you can have more than one window open on the computer? And I was like, are you, what the what? This dude's 2 years older than I am. He's a supervisor. It blows my mind. And you cannot take away screens from a generation that has to grow up with them because it will be required for literally all the jobs that they will do in their life. You can't do that. But I do believe that toys, tactile toys, need to be given to kids to give them a chance to develop, learn, play, and also to create that social function when they're young. I do think that there's room and need for both, but I'm not one of those people that's like, oh my gosh. So I do believe that the things like the new the Playmates line, it serves a very real purpose. It needs to be into the hands of kids. It needs to be sold to kids. It's a kid's toy, and that's fine. Not that we collectors don't pick up kids' toys. I've got plenty of Playmates over here. I got plenty of Playmates over there because I collect Star Trek Playmates, and those were kids' toys. They weren't built with, like, adult collectors in mind. That's not... I mean, yeah, you could argue a little bit because it was Star Trek, but the idea was very much to get them into the hands of kids. And that's what this new one is. But like the Zed and everything that I have was built on a level that I think that I don't think that like the Rita from Playmates would match, and it would cause like a problem on my shelf. I need one good Rita, maybe from the Lightning Collection. But I also don't want to rebuy Zed. And I think that Rita from the Lightning Collection came out in like a 2-pack, like a wedding pack. And I don't want to have to buy a second Zed to get that Rita, but it's the last thing I need for the shelf. Once I have it, my Ranger stuff is done. I don't think I need anything else. I have the Zords I want, things of that. Like, I think I'm already set. So I would be surprised if they got me on anything else Rangers now. Even if they were... But I don't know. I've always wanted a really good Megazord, but I also don't want to pay like $500 to get like Soul of Chogokin or whatever. Like, oh my god. Zords need to look like dino-themed Transformers from the 80s. Everything else looks weird to my 40-year-old eyes. Oh, no. Fair. Funny and fair. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, DC and storage one. So, let's do this. This could actually work to my advantage. Okay, I know I have that. Where are you? Oh, that's right. There's that. Perfect. There, we're going to set that, but we're going to do a storage poll. So we'll do the storage poll while we have this go, and then we'll figure it out from there. So, let's do a storage. It's a lot of bags that have been tossed into the storage, because I know that a lot of these in the storage are going to get immediately put into bags, as bad as that is. So let's figure something out. What is this? I have pulled... Oh! Mary Jane! Okay. This is actually good. I have had my Spider-Man shelf set up for a very long time, but I have not had a Mary Jane on it. I'm pretty sure that this came with... I think this came with the Spider-Man... when he was rich. But I don't think I think it's after the Superior Spider-Man. It's at that point. I think that's this Mary Jane, because I remember her coming in a 2-pack with a Spider-Man that I didn't care for. But I never had a Mary Jane, and she looked just good enough that I was like, this could be perfect. I think this will work. And I remember one thing that I very much liked about this Mary Jane, and I still do even now, freckles. That's like a small thing, but oftentimes I noticed that, like, Mary Jane is supposed to be a natural redhead. She's supposed to be a ginger girl. And oftentimes they don't make her pale, they don't give her freckles, and they do her hair like her hair has been dyed. They don't play her out like that way. I think this is a very good one, though. I think the body works, because you also got to understand, Mary Jane should be designed like a model. There you go. I think that body works well for her. I think it makes sense. They also put a little they chose the arms with a small amount of definition, which also makes sense, because you imagine for the kind of career that she was doing, she was acting and she was also starring. She was doing, like, you know, runways. She was doing modeling. She was doing a little bit of acting. She would need to be in shape, so she probably works out all the time. Her hair is also kind of designed from this point in time, almost like I would argue they almost roughly designed her face. I could be wrong about this, but I feel like I see that they designed her face and hair mildly after Lindsay Lohan, which at that point in time, that probably made a little bit of sense. I also could argue that if you change the hair blonde, this could probably stand in as an Emma Stone head, I wonder. I really do. The only hands I see here is she's got an expression hand, which I imagine I used to use like this. I imagine that's how she used to sit on my shelf. In fact, I'm almost positive of it, because once again, that 90-degree elbow, there's only so much you can do with it. So this was my go-to pose for Mary Jane standing on the shelf, was to put the hand on the hip. And then she has a fist. I don't know what that's about, but I guess if you're dating Spider-Man, every now and then you got to be ready to lay into somebody, okay? Because somebody's coming your way, and you're going to be the victim if you're not going to create the victim. That's, I guess what's going on. The shirt works for me. I like that everything is tucked the way that it is and everything. I like the jeans. I can't say that I'm a huge fan of these, like, slipper shoes, but, like, it does make sense. I've seen a million girls wear them, even if I'm not 100% on board with the slipper shoes. I think they tend to look a little weird on figures, but believable. Everything about this figure is good, especially for the time that I'm thinking this came out. It does have pins. Oh my. That knee feels a little locked up. Yeah, I'm not going to force that. We're going to heat that up and see if we can't crack that out before she goes back on the shelf, because she is going back on the shelf. This is all I have. I don't know the last Mary Jane that was released. I mean, I really don't. Also, this body, if they would reuse this body, right, they could get away with things like, this could easily be a stand-in for, like, She-Hulk. You could do a Jennifer version of this where you swap the head, make this She-Hulk, and then, like, give her a briefcase or something. Just enough to get it done. Or maybe put the jacket on the top, so she kind of looks like that or whatever. I wonder how much of this you could play around with to have this stand-in street clothes-wise as a lot of other figures. You could probably put the Jean Grey head on this and then have her walking with Cyclops while he's got his coat or whatever, and it would probably not look out of place. This body probably could have seen a lot of reuse. I don't know if it did. In fact, this feels like the only version of this body that I have on my shelf, or will have on my shelf, because she's not going anywhere. I like her enough, and I don't have I don't have a Gwen Stacy, and I don't have a Mary Jane, and I don't know the next time we're going to see one. It would be nice. We need an update to those two girls specifically. In fact, I'm surprised we don't see many civilians. Like, we don't see any, really. It's not a thing that Marvel really does, which is kind of surprising, because especially Marvel and DC do two very different things. We're going to use her as a pivot point to talk about why this should be more common. This should be more common than it is, and I'm going to prove it. When you think about DC, I want you to think about this seriously, because I've had this opinion for a very long time. DC tells mythic stories. They tell tales of gods and men. They tell New Age mythology. If you were to say to somebody, what are the best Batman stories? They're going to give you a list of 10 or 12 graphic novels to go get. What's the best events for DC? They're going to say, oh man, you got to read this, this, and this. Oh, Blackest Night. Oh, Crisis on Infinite Earth, so on and so forth. It's going to come up. You're going to have a list. You can do this over and over and over again with DC. And here's the weird part. With DC, most of the time, if you tell somebody this, they can go out and get that Batman story, read only that, having never read Batman before, and they'll read Year One. They'll read The Dark Knight Returns. They'll read The Killing Joke. They'll read The Long Halloween. And every single one of these, they will just read. It's a mythology. Here's why. I honestly believe this. In DC, the side characters do not matter. Who cares? If you are buying DC figures, are you going to buy an Etta Candy? Do you even know what that is? It's a fair question. Do you? Because I'll bet you, most people don't. They don't know who it is. They don't care who it is. You could argue Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen, people know who that is. That's fair. What about the rest of the news crew? What about the fact that the entire news crew was featured in the new Superman movie and nobody was talking about them? Because nobody knows who they are. Those characters don't matter. They don't matter. But Marvel's different. If you ask somebody in the Marvel category, hey, what are the best Spider-Man stories that I should read? I want to get into Spider-Man. What are the 5 Spider-Man stories that I should read? Ooh, that's a different question. See, now I'm not going to tell you, oh, Clone Saga. I'm not going to tell you, ooh, you should definitely read the Symbiote Saga. Well, here's why. Because Marvel tells long soap operas. And the entirety of that focus is built on character dynamic and relationships over time. Why does Mary Jane matter? Because she was brought up extensively before we ever seen her. Then we saw her. Then we were blown away by her. Then we got to know her. Then time developed. Then Parker started dating her. But then he started dating Gwen Stacy. And then the two girls kind of clashed. And then it was decided that Mary Jane was the friend. And then Gwen Stacy moved into the forefront. And then an entire story grew around Harry Osborn. And then Gwen Stacy was dead. And then Mary Jane, as a friend, spent the night with Peter while he was broken down. That, if you've ever read up to that point, there is very little impact if I would say, oh, you should read The Death of Gwen Stacy. A lot of this isn't going to matter to you, but it's going to matter to me if we have put all this time into Mary Jane over the course of literally 100 issues. And then, while Parker is broken down and he says, just leave me alone. And she shuts the door. She didn't walk out the door. She shut the door and she stayed there with him. And that is the turning point for Mary Jane to no longer be a friend, no longer be this fun girl, and no longer be the happy-go-lucky making jokes all the time. Now she's moving into relationship status, and we're building that, and we're moving towards the wedding, and we're doing the wedding, and we're building a marriage, and we're doing a relationship, and we're having troubles, and we're trying separations, and we're building and building and building and building and building. At some point along the way, I'm not going to say Marvel didn't lose this follow, because now they just seem to do a whole bunch of gimmicky crap over and over and over again. I'm sorry if I'm getting into some old man crap, but it feels like every time I turn around now, I'm reading about some event or something that doesn't make sense to the characters, and I'm like, how did we end up here? Like, I heard that Mary Jane is Venom now. What? What? Through the stories that I remember about her, like, waking... You remember why we got rid of the black suit? Like, because there's an entire storyline there about why she gets rid of the black suit and why she can't stand the idea. What happened? I don't know. I haven't read it. And I would hope... Though from the last run that I read in Marvel, I will say that things seem like they have changed. But like, it just feels weird. It doesn't feel like there has to be a lot that went on that drove the character to this point. Now, if I tell you to read a storyline, like I said, if I tell you to read the storyline where Kraven's last hunt, maybe you'll read it and go, oh man, that was crazy. But did any of the nuance hit with you? Does it really matter? No. I don't think it does. I think you're missing half the story, because Marvel tells soap opera tales that build. DC tells epic, sweeping mythology stories. You could jump in at almost any point of DC and read a good book. And it's fine. You can continually alter the character dynamic, and it will work. We've seen it a million times. What I just explained to you, if you go read The Dark Knight Rises, you go read The Dark Knight Returns, and you read Year One, and you read The Killing Joke, and you read The Long Halloween, and like, you're just reading Batman stories, and you will never once go, like, or Birth of the Demon and whatnot, the three demon mains. If you read all of these, every single one of those Batmans will feel different. But they will just be Batman. They're not the same character at the same time or to the same right. If you were to give one book and then another in DC, and these characters basically feel like they're two different people, but that's still Batman. I get it. We're just telling this kind of story. And this is still Batman. We're just telling this kind of story. It doesn't work in Marvel. Marvel, when this character works this way and we go, okay, this is that thing, and then we go to the next one and it feels off, we go, something doesn't feel right about this. Like something, I don't know what it is, but something about the character doesn't feel right. I kind of hate that story. But maybe you would have really liked that story had you read the 100 books that lead up to it, because Marvel tells soap operas. And all of that, because yes, I didn't lose track of what I was doing here, leads me to the understanding that we should have more characters in Marvel Legends, and we don't. But why? Like, we should have Gwen Stacy's. We should have Mary Jane's. We should have J. Jonah Jameson's. We do. I'm just simply saying. We should have Aunt May's. How come there's only like one Aunt May figure that in Marvel Legends that you can get, and it's only a cartoon Aunt May? That character's not important? It blows me away. It really does. When was the last time, or the only time, because I actually don't think this exists, that you could buy a Flash Thompson? Like a street clothes Flash Thompson. Or even a one-off interesting Flash Thompson dresses as Spider-Man and learns a heavy lesson, and, you know, it comes with the Flash Thompson head and the body's just a little bit different. Maybe we take away a little bit of the articulation because he can't actually move like Spider-Man because he's supposed to be in a Spider-Man costume. Where's that? Like, you don't think these things would sell? Because I would argue that if you sold a wedding pack of like Mary Jane and Parker 2-pack in wedding attire, you would sell it. If you sold a wedding pack of Rogue and Gambit in wedding attire, you would sell it. If you sold, even though it did not happen, a Kitty Colossus wedding pack in wedding attire, you would sell it. If you sold a Cyclops Jean Grey wedding pack, wedding attire, you would sell it. If you sold an Invisible Woman, Mr. Fantastic wedding pack, you would sell it. It would sell because these characters are soap opera characters. The characters matter more than the story does. That's not true in DC. I would argue that the story matters more than the characters do on the DC side. And I think that I've seen that my entire life. Which is also the reason why a lot of people DC-wise like a broad range of characters. And sometimes you get into Marvel and they go, I like Spider-Man. Oh, well, have you ever read Captain? I like Spider-Man. Well, that's great. Have you ever like tried to read some Captain America? No, I don't think you understand. I like Spider-Man. That you come across that in DC more than in Marvel more than you ever do DC. And I think that's a difference in the way that they tell stories, the way that they run their collective narrative. I do think it's important. I do think it matters, which surprises me that this is our Mary Jane. Wildly out of date. And I can't tell you the last time we got one or the next time we'll get one. And I promise you that when we do, she will be part of a pack. Just like the cartoon Mary Jane that they released. That's part of a pack. And that's often the case when they sell something like this because they don't think it'll sell. They don't sell you a classic Gwen Stacy. They don't think it'll sell. They have to box it in with something. But I feel like they're wrong. And I feel like they should have proved that to themselves when they sold a J. Jonah Jameson. And people bought it out of stock. I don't think that's a one-off. I think you could do it with a lot of characters and they don't realize it. And I think the reason is because of the way they tell stories. So I'm putting her back on the shelf. Out of storage, back on the shelf. Mary Jane, happy to have actually grabbed this one back out of storage. She's old, like, but she'll do until a new one drops. And I do got to kind of look into her leg. I really want to fix that. Yeah, I'm not going to force that. That feels like that's going to snap. But Mary Jane. Let's see. Next one on the list is going to be Black Canary. So let me get that up here. But let me also set up, go up here and see what some people are saying, because people are probably talking. What's going on with the lizard situation on Amazon? I've been seeing people getting it early, while mine says May the 4th. Mine also says May 4th. I saw that as well. I saw people that are already getting him, already doing reviews, already talking about him. And I think I even asked one guy, I was like, how do you have that? Like, and I think he said that he just ordered off Amazon or whatever. So is this one of those things where, like I said, all the time street dates are unreliable? Sometimes they get moved up. Or is this like something else altogether? Because I know some people literally go to the other sites and buy and like import them or whatever and get them super early. But yeah, like I saw that too. And heck, if we're going to get the lizard early, if we're going to get him in April, I'm okay with that. Send him. I'm ready. I'm ready for some lizard. Like I'm 100%. But yeah, mine also says May. Yes. Oh yeah, Bill. What are your thoughts on the new Punisher Hulkbuster? Ah, he looks good. He looks good. He's awesome. He's very cool. I don't have a Punisher. I'm not getting him. Because of the way my finances have come out, I did pass on him. So I'm not gonna make this a big thing. Okay, I'm gonna try to not. I lost like $1,500 a little while ago. Remember when we did the stream that got smashed out, and I said that I wasn't necessarily doing well, so I didn't know how I was going to hold up throughout the stream? My dog died. I've had 2 dogs for a very long time. I've had an older dog, and I've often talked about him on the stream. Blind, diabetic, a little bit heavy set. We take him on walks. We take care of him. He was very old. This isn't like I didn't see it coming. That dog was 15 years old, and for a dog his size, a husky, he lived a very long time, and he lived a very happy life. But he did pass. I found him. I was the only one home. I'm the one that found him. I had to pick him up. I had to carry him out of the house. I had to deal with the situations, and I had to put him down. And it was hard. And it took a financial hit and an emotional hit for me to have to do that. I love my dogs very much. They're a big part of my life. Like, Lexi sleeps in my bed. I'm always talking to her. She's always sitting with me. We're always watching shows and doing things. My dogs are involved in my life. If I'm in here editing, my dog is right here. She lays right here on the floor, right behind me. That's the reason why sometimes she comes up and like kicks the door and barks at me while we're doing the streams, is because she wants to know what I'm doing in here. So like my dogs are a huge part of my life. So that hit me pretty hard. And I didn't just take him in and give up. I didn't have the heart to do it. I dropped about $1,500 testing everything that we could test before I made my final decision. And so I did. So when this came out, it was very much like one of those things where like I was like, oh, that's really cool. But I know where my financial spot is right now, and I'm kind of trying to build my money back. So I made a couple decisions and dropped a couple items. And we're basically going to leave this to convention luck. I don't know how that's going to turn out. I think this is very cool. I think he is very cool. And if I only ever have one Punisher on the shelf, it won't be a classic Punisher. I don't read Punisher. I don't really know a whole lot about him. He's not something I've ever invested in. But this one is the one. Like, he's so cool, so ridiculous, so awesome. All the explosion effects and everything. Basically, I'm going to play it out for a month or so. If he is still there, I will go get him. If he shows up at a toy store and he's not like $200, I will buy one. If I walk across him and he's $80 and I have to take a hit to get him, but he's not completely overpriced from the price that he originally dropped at, I will do it. I will buy him, and I will not cry about having to have done so. That's where I am with that. So I like him a lot, but there are circumstances in my life that have caused me to drop him, because he was one that I was going to buy, but he got canceled. I'm not trying to be heavy. That's why. That's the honest reason. Look, we're collectors, but life doesn't stop because we're buying toys. Life just keeps on coming. Funny you're talking about the screen time thing, because one of the old episodes I listened to had someone we know saying that the screens are making kids lose their imagination. We argued. Yeah, I have. I've been arguing about it for a while, and I have said, because I'm one of the people that has argued that I've watched it with Gwen. She had toys, but Gwen is 100% a screen kid. However, while Gwen never really played extensively with toys, she got out of toys very, very, very early. Like, by 7 years old, she was basically done with them. She likes to build models, like Gunpla and the Pokemon models. But otherwise, she's 100% screen. However, if you give Gwen a sword and send her outside, there's like 6 hours. You don't know where that kid is. So she'll go around and run all over the woods, to the point where one time she came home and told me she got chased by a wild turkey. I was like, where in the shit were you? She'll run along the creek and everything like that and come back and have a bunch of sand in her shoes and be like, Dad, we got to clean these shoes. And I'm like, what were you doing? Like, she's that kid. You give her a stick, a sword, you tell her to go outside, she's running all over the place. She'll do that. So she still very much has play, so I never really worried about it. But in terms of screens, screens are definitive over toys anymore in the industry. I would personally think so. But I've noticed, since this argument that you're talking about, and I would very much be interested in what that episode was, because I would like to hear where my stance on was it and how I was talking about it back then, because I remember who I was arguing with and what we were arguing about. But I'm very curious, because now I've noticed there's been an uptick in toy sales to kids in the last 5 years, like a huge one. To the point where I've watched certain toy companies change their dynamics and start putting kids' toys back out at real affordable prices, like $10 toys and whatnot that you can go get. Like what we're seeing with Mattel right now, where Mattel has basically 3 collector's lines now. There's a core line, which is very much meant for kids, that's $10 figures. They're toys, they're He-Man, they're DC, they're out there, and things of that nature. And then there's another line that's above, which is like in the $25 bracket, that's made with the adult collector in mind. They're going to want this kind of articulation, this kind of thing, and these kind of looks, and this kind of system. They're not interested in buying these toys. And I do think that's very interesting. So I've seen an uptick where we seem to be selling to kids again at a higher rate than we were back then when we were talking about this. With children, everything in moderation, tech and toys. I could agree with that. Yeah, I think you do need both. But I think you do need to be careful about not letting either one necessarily take over their life. I can agree with that. Change my vote from Trek to storage, since no one likes what I'm wanting to see today. Let's see. I bought the first 2 Back to the Future movies at Flea Market for $2 each, and the third on Amazon for $9.19. I'm going through this in my head. DVD, $39. Because I'm trying to think. I think there's packs now. Like, can't you just get all 3 of them in like a pack for probably like less than $20? Not that you didn't do wrong. Not that you didn't do right. Look, if you've never seen those movies, first off, they're utterly fantastic. That's one of the best trilogies ever filmed. But like, it's not a bad deal to get them at $2 each either. Like, that's one cool thing that I've noticed, though, is DVDs are at this point where basically, since they're on the way out, you could find just a massive rush of really, really good movies for practically nothing. Like, it's a good time to kind of buy DVDs, especially if you have movies that you always kind of thought about watching, but then like never did. You can get them like less than $5 and just a whole wave. I buy them from like Mega Replay. They're like $3 a piece. I'll buy like 20 something DVDs, come home, run through them and be like, these 5 I really like. I'd like to buy these on Blu-ray. These 6 we can throw away. I don't even give a crap about those movies. And these can just stay on DVD. They're good, but I can't see that the update would matter. Like, it's a good time to kind of be in movies, because like it's a good collector's market right now, I would argue. It's a long shot, but I'd love to see you get your hands on a Mess Toys unlicensed Revoltech KO Spider-Man, just so I can hear your thoughts on it. I've talked about it before that I don't really buy the unlicensed toys. However, that doesn't mean that I'm 100% against it, because we've had this talk before. I think I have 2 different videos that have come out that have specifically talked about how I feel about it and why I understand that people buy them. And it's not that I haven't been tempted by a couple of these in the past. I've just never picked any of them up. I ain't mad at that Mary Jane. I like when lines do regular people in regular clothes. Right, yeah, but we never see it. I think there's an entire market that hasn't been tapped with that kind of situation. I know I'm probably getting my hopes up, but I hope one day the Marvel Legends team does a 90s Mary Jane specifically from Todd's run. Even with the hair and everything, that would be... I agree. I would love to see, because we've seen every other version of all these characters, and we always see like, oh, well, here's a video game Punisher and a regular Punisher and a blue Punisher and a green, like, and that's great. I'm just saying Punisher because it was something that I seen him up there, so that's where my mind is. But like, if we're going to get like 80 versions of Spider-Man and 20 versions of the Punisher and 10 different Nick Furies and 17 different freaking Captain Americas and every different version of Jean Grey, how come we haven't had street clothes Jean Grey? How come we haven't had, like you said, right there, like, how come we haven't had like 5 or 6 different Mary Janes? She's somebody that has been altered in looks and designs. At least every decade, she has underwent a complete transformation. And we never see anything from it. It never gets released. It never gets touched on. I feel like that's an entire line that's never been tried, and they're missing out on it. Plus, with like citizen bodies, you could, once you have like 10 of these, you could set up all kinds of situations. Like, we got Wolverine in street clothes like 4 or 5 times, but is he the only guy in the entirety of the X Mansion that's sitting down at the kitchen table in the morning wearing regular clothes, and then Cyclops walks in with his complete condom suit pulled over his head and sits down and has some pancakes? Like, what? Why don't we have a multitude of citizen bodies and citizen heads? Give me a Cyclops that has the glasses. Give me 3 or 4 different bodies that work for that kind of situation, and I would set up like a dinner shot or whatever, where all the X-Men are sitting around hanging out, because you know that happens. These guys live together on a regular basis, and they live together. They don't just get together every now and then and do superhero crap. Even the Avengers are like that. They live in a mansion where they live, and when the world is not in peril, they're just doing living stuff. But we never see that. We never see that figure-wise, ever. It could be done. We have She-Hulk. They can do that long hair. If we're talking about civilian clothes, MJ, I think the only one after this was the VHS Spider-Man. And that's what I was thinking too, is that's the only one. We are at a point where Mary Jane is Venom. Yeah. And Eddie Brock is bonded with Carnage. So I don't have a comic book poll list anymore. I did a video a while back where I talked about how I left single issue comics. I don't know what gets us to this point. But I don't know. I don't know how we get there. And this is exactly what I was talking about. With DC, I wouldn't even shrug my shoulders about it. I'd just go read the next story that I cared about with DC. But with Marvel, I'm like, how do we get here? But the problem is we got here over the course of 200 issues with small nuance in every issue that pulled us in this direction. And I don't have time to read that. Like, holy crap. At least they got rid of Paul. Yes. I believe a random villain Boomerang is the newest symbiote. Well, they kind of did that. I have it. I have a Spider-Man with an alternate Flash Thompson head. Yeah, but I think isn't that the Flash Thompson Spider-Man? Because if it is, I actually wanted that and I didn't get him. But I feel like maybe it's not the one I'm thinking about. Maybe you're talking about something else. Because there is a what-if story with the Flash Spider-Man. And I actually, if that figure exists, I do want it. But I don't know if that's what we're talking about right now. I think you're talking about what I was talking about. Cartoon MJ is the only one I have. Like the new Robin, Martian Manhunter, and Miss Martian due for pre-order on the 15th. But I'm seeing lots of people finding them in the wild. Yes. Yes. And on Walmart shelves. It's not even like they're going out of their way or doing crazy things. They're just picking them up. It's kind of wild to me, actually, when you mention that. Because yes, that's it. That's exactly what we're seeing. There are so many figures where you'll buy them pre-order. I am ordering it before it even comes out. I'm trying to explain this because I feel like it should have an idea. But if we were to take this into two different ideas, say we had a comic book, a DVD, a video game, and an action figure, and I pre-order this action figure, and I pre-order it almost a year in advance, but I do the same for my video game, my movie, and everything else. My movie comes out April 19th. Guess what? Because I ordered it through Amazon, it will actually be sitting at my door on the 19th. So will my book. In fact, I've been doing it. I've been ordering the Conan Omnibus, and I've been ordering them 4 or 5 months in advance. And then it'll say something like, this releases on May 14th. And you know what happens? On May 14th, on the exact date, I will get a message on my phone that says, oh, that Conan book is going to be showing up at your door in an hour. It's 10 stops away. It's perfect timing. But then this figure will say April. And that's all it'll say. April. But then, a month before, you will find that figure at a GameStop or a Walmart sitting on the shelf, already there. It's there. It's right there. You could buy it right now. And funny that, but we're going to kind of talk about this in a minute, because that's how I got Black Widow. She was pre-ordered. The idea being that I bought her before she even came out. Which means that arguably, the very first time that they were shipped anywhere, they should have been shipped to me as one of the very first people to get them, because just like with a Kickstarter, I put my money down before anybody else. Anybody playing the shopping hunting game should have came across said figures after me, not before me. It should not be possible. But toy street dates are the weirdest thing I can think of. It's the only collecting line that I can think of where the street dates do not matter. They're fake. They're just a rough estimate of, we might get this figure to you sometime around June. Or fourth quarter. Can you imagine if you were going to play, say you were going to play the new Grand Theft Auto 6, and instead of giving you a release date, they said that this will be a Walmart exclusive sometime in the third quarter. Do you think that would fly? Do you think that would be okay? No. It's going to come out. It's going to hit store shelves at an exact date once they get this put in stone. Once they say this is the date, that's when it's going to come out. That's when it's going to be in the stores. That's when you can buy it. And a lot of other systems will have you download the game like a month in advance. But it will be locked and it will unlock at 12 midnight on whatever day. I've done that with a couple games. I think I did it with Resident Evil 3. When Resident Evil 3, the remake, came out, I had it downloaded like a week in advance, but I couldn't play it. And then the day that it came out, it just unlocked on my PC and I played it. Like, those are street dates that make sense. Toys are wild to me with street dates. They do not make sense to me. They never have, and it's the only collection market I can think of that gets away with this. Like, I can't name another one that gets away with it. Thank you. And thank you. He's a Hasbro Pulse exclusive. So I'm not going to come across... Well, but I still could come across him at a convention. Because I have a couple of dealers that I work with specifically at the conventions that I go to. And they often will buy those exclusives. And they'll have like 4 or 5 of them ready for sale. So I still might very much come across him. But for right now, he's still up there. So I'm just playing it out. We'll see how it goes. Poll was terrible. Good riddance. It's the Spider-Man from the VHS Spider-Man TAS Vulture 2-pack. It has 3 heads. Peter, Flash, and comes with a mask. That's actually cool because that did happen in the cartoon. He did dress up as Spider-Man and get himself in some very real trouble. I was not on live chat. I wonder if I missed... It doesn't look like it. But okay. Well... Let's do this. Black Widow. That's Black Canary. Let's do that again. I think we were just talking too much Marvel, literally just now, and I completely screwed up, and my mind was like, Black Widow, Marvel, and DC. Let's try it again. Black Canary. Look at that. You see how if I do it a second time, I can usually get it. I even did the flip a little better and everything. So, we'll just take that, and that's the best take, and that's what'll show up. And, nobody will ever know. Except that I'll leave this entire part in when I edit, because I know how I am. So, why Black Canary? Right? Because I always have a reason for the ones that I buy. Because you'll notice, I never bought a Green Arrow. Most of the time, when I've read Green Arrow, I have not really liked Green Arrow. When I watch Arrow, which is not really Green Arrow, it's Arrow, and it's a different thing altogether, I never really loved that show. So, why buy Black Canary when obviously she is connected directly to Green Arrow? Because I've never seen her that way. My experience with her is from when she would show up in things like, for one, my first exposure to her was probably, this is hard to say, because I was reading JSA, but I was also, and like JLA, and I was also watching the Justice League cartoon, and she's in the Justice League cartoon, but I know I've seen her in the comics somewhere around that point at the same, and it's hard for me to say which one of those was my first encounter. But I've seen her in both of those. One of the things that I used to love is that she would show up in things like JSA. And the cool thing about her is that when she would show up, they would be training superheroes. That's kind of what they were doing around that time in the comics. They had younger people that they were training to kind of be superheroes and get them into this and get them settled and everything like that and kind of take care of them and teach them how their powers worked and things of that nature. It was kind of a cool little gimmick that they had. And she would show up and she would fight these kids or younger heroes or heroes that were just discovering their powers, and they would have superpowers. And she would put them on their butt. Like, she'd lay them out. And sometimes they were absolutely stupefied. You also seen it in Young Justice, where, like, she showed up and Superboy was like, "Are you kidding? I'm basically Superman." And then she mollywopped him. And he could not for the life of him figure out how that was possible. And no, she wouldn't use the canary cry. She wouldn't scream at him. She would beat him with these. And he could not fathom that. She is, not a joke, one of the greatest martial artists in the entirety of all DC. In fact, let me just put this one into perspective for you. Wildcat, one of the greatest fighters to have ever lived in the history of DC. Just a guy whose hands were so real that he was mollywopping superpowered individuals because he just liked it more than boxing at this point. That is a wild sentiment. He taught Bruce Wayne and Dinah. He taught both of them. And just to put this into perspective, Bruce, Batman, learned how to fight with Wildcat. Then Black Canary learned how to fight with Wildcat. But she was a level of obsession where she basically slept with the boxing gloves. She was good. Probably one of the best people, if not the best person he ever taught. To the point where there's a real possibility that she could beat him in his prime. And, if you've never seen it, there is actually a match between Batman and Black Canary in a ring where they both step in, they both put on gloves, and they both start sizing each other up. And at the end of that fight, Batman loses. And by the way, Batman doesn't lose to her superpower. He loses to these. That is incredible. That's skills. Now, if that fight takes place in the DC universe, where it is a different kind of fight, and Batman has all of his toys and she has her powers, and they're both in full gear, one could argue that Batman probably wins that fight. Because, and I know the whole Batman thing, but one could also argue that if she's allowed her power on top of the fact that she can already outfight him when they're in street clothes, one could argue that maybe with that power aside, if he doesn't have a bunch of toys to offset the balance and he can't get to them quick enough, there's a 25% world where she beats him in fair fighting, even in full gear. She is nobody's joke. She's one of the most serious fighters in the entirety of the DC universe. That is wild. When I seen her coming into JSA and things of that nature, and she was laying people out, and she would show up in the Justice League books, and she would put people on their backs that, like, at first I thought it was like one of those writer things, like, oh, we've got to make this person look cool so somebody will actually kill her. So, you know, somebody will actually like her and we want to kill the character off and yada yada. Like, that's one of those situations where, like, yeah, you see that in books where sometimes, I even talked about it. I have a video on here where we talk about things like, Chun-Li. Chun-Li is supposed to be the strongest woman in the world, but every single time they bring a new character in, every single time, to make sure that you feel like that character's an actual threat, they beat up Chun-Li. Why are we doing that? That drives me crazy. Chun-Li, strongest woman in the world, best fighter in the world. She's got it. She's the woman. She's the woman that showed up in the first Street Fighter, only woman there that was throwing down with men and winning fights. And then, here comes Cammy. And we got to do like a thing where we have Cammy win. So there's like some comic books and whatnot where she gets put on her butt. And then immediately after that, we got to bring in Crimson Viper. And she's got a mollywhopper. And then we've got to bring in Jury. And Jury's got a mollywhopper. And we do it over and over and over and over and over again. Because it's just like if you want to prove that somebody's a danger. And they did this in the first season of Justice League. Watch the first season of Justice League. Superman constantly gets beat. He just gets beat up over and he's like a sissy. He has no chance at all. He's like barely able to hold back regular missiles and things like that. And a tiny laser will be like, beep. And he's like, oh, I'm defeated. He gets hit by lightning. You're telling me in all the time that Superman has ever flown around in the skies of Metropolis during thunderstorms saving lives, he's never been struck by lightning? I'm positive it's supposed to do nothing to him. But for some reason, he just put on his backside in the cartoon. They do it. Because if Superman, if it's a problem for Superman, then now it's a real problem. Now everybody's got to step up, and you've already set the bounds of how dangerous this new person is. So they would do stuff like that. You could argue that sometimes, like, they want to do something like that with a character like this, where she walks in and she makes a name for herself immediately by putting a guy that she never should have been able to beat in his place. Sure. But over the years, the fact that they've never backed down from that premise, that says something about what she's supposed to be. They know what she is supposed to be. She is one of the best fighters in the history of all DC. And the funny thing about it is nobody talks about her ever. Like, ever. When was the last time you ever were sitting down with somebody and you were like, who are your favorite DC characters? And they pulled out Black Canary. Oh, it's definitely Black Canary. Black Canary, dude. She's like one of the coolest people ever, dude. She's so good. Read all of her books. Do ya? Where do you come from? Like, it's not normal that you come across like people. There are people that like, I hate this one. Ooh, dude, Black Canary's hot. If that is the only reason you like her, you know nothing about her. I'm not interested in why you like her. I don't care. But if you have seen her do things like what I was describing, and then garnered respect over time, and then started to be like, what else is she in? Then you start reading books that you would have never read, like Sirens, because I would have never read Sirens. There's a chance because the Batgirl was in it and whatnot, but like, they were like, hey, did you know that she's in Sirens? And I was like, oh, okay, hold on. How in it is she? Like, she's there? I bought an entire run of Sirens because she was in it. Because I wanted to know, is that consistent? Is she a badass consistently all the time? The answer, by the way, is yes. Also, when Batgirl started walking again, okay? When she got cured and they put the devices in her back and whatnot, and they got the experimental surgeries and whatnot, and they got her up and moving, and they got her walking again, you know who she went to whip her into shape to put her back in fighting prowess? Yeah, that's who she went to. Because why wouldn't you? And when Wildcat is the one that is specifically backing you up and saying, oh no, you don't understand. She's real. Okay. If the hands of DC are saying you're the real stuff, then that's it. It's over. You're the real stuff. Ain't nobody able to argue with it, okay? You're the real stuff. I like her a lot because she's an honest badass in DC and one with skills, not one with, I have superpowers. It's not that I hate superpowers, but we've talked about this many times on this channel. I like Conan the Barbarian because he's a guy. Because every single time that he has a situation, it's dangerous and it's adventure. And it never loses that edge because we're not doing Dragon Ball Z power creep. We're not doing one day Superman was able to do this, but then later he was able to push the moon, and then later he could sneeze away things, and then later he was like punching gods in the face. All right. And then I'm supposed to believe that Batman took him out because he has a green ring? Get out of here. How? You're telling me that Superman can move like 5 times the speed of light and he didn't just fly up into the atmosphere, use his optic vision, see exactly where Batman was, shoot a laser down, burn that rock right off his finger, and then fly at subsonic speed and punch his head off his shoulders? There should be no time ever. I don't care what the prep is. There should be no point ever that Batman can beat Superman because of the way power creep works. And once you do it, now we've got an infinite power creep because Batman is somehow on an unbeatable level stomping gods out of existence. Every now and then when the human character gets an edge, it's really cool. But when it happens over and over and over again, I start to lose my interest in the characters. And power creep is a very real thing in a lot of different animes and a lot of different comics, to the point where at some point it's no longer interesting to me because I'm like, what are we doing? Like, how am I supposed to believe that any of this is even a problem anymore? But things like Conan stay interesting because Conan is just a guy. I love stuff like this. She has one power. That cry. That's it. But you know what? If you read a lot of comics that have her in it, that cry is not the big thing that she's laying down. 80% of the books that I've read, she's kicking, she's punching, she's riding motorcycles, she's bringing these hands in, she's using tonfa sticks and like billy clubs and things like that. She is laying down real skill fighting over and over and over again. And if you happen to be a big enough problem, she'll scream about it. Like, she is interesting and cool, and I honestly like her. That is why when they said, we're going to do Black Canary, we're going to do this style, which is the style that I like. I like this costume. I think this was her. I think this is her classic, if you're going to ask me what look I like. The fishnets, the boot, the back biker jacket, the short shorts. This is her. If you're going to ask me what her best look is, it's this right here. I love the blonde hair. This is actually pretty good artwork. I don't know if this is done by a person or if this is... I've heard that he has got called out a couple times for like playing around with AI. I don't know. This looks good to me. I like it. I think it's good. And would I say that is her? I say we've got a couple of face problems, but we'll talk about it. I think this is fantastic. So, before we move on, I told you that we would bring up street dates. We went to GameStop a little while ago because we were there looking for something, a video game, specifically trying to get my kid something. When we went there, we ended up getting her a headset, and I walked across this. And I was like, wait a second, what? And this and the Joker were sitting there on the shelf, just there. You just buy them. But I had pre-ordered them both from Big Bad, and there was no indication whatsoever that they were even on the way. None. Once again, we always talk about this. The street dates with toys are a weird thing. They basically don't exist. They're like a weird maybe. Like, maybe sometime around this time. Who knows? Maybe you'll get them. But so I've kind of made it a habit now that if I run across something like this in the wild, I immediately get on my phone. I go to Big Bad or EE or whatever I happen to be getting it from, and I cancel my pre-orders and I pick it up. Because I'm not going to wait. It's right there, and I could see it in real time. So that's how I got her. I got her as a cancellation to the other thing that I was going to get. The other thing that I'm interested in the most is I'm curious to see how this jacket works, which right now it doesn't look bad, but it's also tied. So I'm curious how that's going to, is it going to be like really flimsy and things like that? I don't know. I'm curious about the fishnets. Is it going to feel like I could tear them if I mess around with it too much? Because then I don't want to do that. I don't want to tear them. I don't want to mess them up. But I'm also interested in them because I think that it's cool when figures like this have something like that. It's just neat. Now, I would argue that I'm not a big fan of, like, on figures this scale, most of the time I don't like real clothes, I'll call it. Soft goods. I know that's what we're supposed to say. Because, like, sometimes the jackets feel wrong. And it actually feels better when the jackets are literally just a plastic or a rubber that's, like, on them. And it always just looks really cool. And it doesn't look flimsy or weird or cheap. Or, like, it, sometimes, like, it's kind of, like, in the way. But then one could argue that just like that Gambit that was released that had the wire trench coat, that's probably the best Gambit. So I know that it's hit and miss. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I'm curious about which one this is. And I'm also curious that if this jacket is good enough, why did they not use this jacket for Superboy? Back up. Because they released a Superboy and they released him, but they didn't give him his jacket, which is the only reason I passed on him. Why didn't he get the jacket? The jacket is right there. In fact, I think it's the same jacket that Power Girl had, except hers was in red. I imagine it's basically the same jacket. I don't know. Let's open her. First off, no flight stand. How's she supposed to be up in the air screaming in heaven? I don't care. This is one of those characters I don't care. She doesn't need a flight stand. But I still stick to what I've said a million times, though. I do feel like every one of these characters by this point should come with them, because we could either equip the flight part of it and have them like jumping and doing a jump kick or something of that nature, or if we just wanted them standing, we just don't plug in that flight part, and it should just, then it would basically be this anyway. And it would add versatility to so much of the line, where we would have things like a Batman where we could actually put him up jumping or whatever, but he will not give those stands out. He will sell those stands individually, though. And that's a thing that he started doing. So I guess, there you go. Whatever. Okay. Well. Okay. I'll admit, I do not hate that face. I thought that I would. There's something about it being in the plastic, behind the plastic, that, like, I wasn't really liking. But getting a closer look at it outside the packaging, I don't hate it. It looks kind of tough. She just looks kind of like a real girl. I mean, she looks like a girl that would be tough. Her face is a little bigger. I kind of like it, actually. I really do. I'm being serious about that. I think that's not a bad. I don't think that's a bad design. I think they kind of nailed it. She's got this little smirk face. I don't know how much of a pain it is to take her face off. Face off. Is your hair in the way? Look, I know some people really like these faceplates. I'm kind of wishing that I just had heads that I could swap off because I think this is kind of a pain in the butt. Sometimes I feel like I almost have to take the head off just to even get... Ah, dang. Looks like it should just pull straight out, but I can't get a hold of her cheeks. That's a real problem. I'm going to have to play with that a little later and figure out exactly how to... So the faceplates on this one, they are very secure. Maybe that's a plus to some people, and it very much could be. But she has a screaming face, and she also has a face that's just kind of like a face. It's just a regular, like, I'm fine with the world face. Like, there. They're not bad. They're pretty good. And I will have to mess with her to see how I feel that works. She comes with 2 punching hands. She comes with a trigger finger hand, but she doesn't use guns. She comes with another trigger finger hand, and then she comes with the 2 expression hands. The trigger finger hands they could have kept. I still don't get why we are doing that all the time. Like, all the time. Stop with the trigger finger hands. Listen. I could understand it if the characters came or were one of those characters that, like, used guns. But they're not. So why don't we just create the grip hands? I just don't get it. I've never understood it. I never will. Oh, that's cool. I like that. She's got this bird. That's cool. She's got the symbol on the back of the jacket. I like that a lot. There's the seams for the fishnets. They are in the back, so they're noticeable, but they're there. I like the way they've done her body cap. It's not quite the same as like other figures. And I think that's important. All women, just like all men, are different sizes and different builds. She feels like she has a different build. They kind of did a different butt for her, which is different than the Power Girl butt, which is different than the Catwoman butt, which is different than the Fire butt, and things like that. I actually think that's important. I think that it's important that every single character kind of has something that makes them a little bit different. Like, I wouldn't have minded slightly thicker legs, which, who knows, maybe compared, if I was to maybe hold these legs up to a couple of the other figures on the shelf, maybe her legs are a little thicker. Maybe that's not just an optical illusion, but I think it could be an optical illusion being created by the fact that the pants here are a little bit different, and they kind of make her thicker, and they don't like bring her hips in or like her mid. They don't bring her midsection in to an absolute point. She goes more of a straight down. She still has a wire. She still has a hourglass, but it's not as predominant. And I actually think that's important because she looks like a fighter. You ever see a lot of girls that are like heavy into fighting and working out and things like that? They do tend to build like this. They do tend to sometimes become bigger ladies. That's cool. I like that. I think that it's realistic. I think that it works. The fishnets, I can't tell how they're attached. Like, I'm not trying to look at her butt, but I am curious how they go up. Okay, I found it. So there's a seam here, and that's how they're attached. It feels like they're under this seam, and that's how they're attached into there. I'm going to move them around a little bit now. I want to know. I really like these boots, by the way. I like these boots. I think those are cool. But I want to see, how does that... That's not terrible. You do notice the knee more. not that we didn't always notice the knee, but you notice the knee a little bit more because these are now like, because the fishnets are there. And I'm curious, okay, so you do got to be careful. Okay, so I just figured it out in real time. You can pinch the fishnets. So this is something to look out for. If you're going to have this figure, and if you're going to be messing with this figure and moving her around a lot, there's a very real possibility that you can pinch the fishnets into the knee. And I don't know if you could pinch the fishnets into here or whatever. If you're doing like a side kick, there's also another problem where, because of the way they chose the seams, careful how you do the angle. You might want to do an angle like this where you show her kicking. And so like a photography wise, you want to hit an angle from this side, because the more you turn in, you get to about right here and you're going to notice that seam, and it's going to throw off the design a little bit and look kind of weird. It's not going to look right. And also, like when she's standing right here, if you move that leg down too much, it becomes an issue. That seam becomes a little more predominant, I guess. So make sure that this is pulled down and in place before you take pictures, because that is unseemly. If you're going to take pictures, it could become a problem. Otherwise, the jacket is cool. It doesn't seem like it's giving me too much trouble. I think that wire helped it, though I am noticing it doesn't take much to kind of move it and get it kind of looking a little bit awkward. Like, because let's put her hand here. Move that. There. Not terrible. Something like this. You want to kind of move this up, guard the face, bring this one out a little bit. That's not terrible. I think that you'll get away with it. I think that that's fine. But to give it credit, whatever this pleather-esque material is, it is kind of restrictive like a leather jacket would be. I don't know how many people have actually worn leather jackets, but I've had quite a few in my life. I've worn a lot of them. I've owned a lot of them. I have one right now, actually, that's downstairs. My kid has worn it to school a couple times because she'll be like, it was freezing out today, so I took your leather jacket. She goes, it's hard to move in that thing, but it is warm. And I'm like, yes, it's basically armor, but it is hard to move. Like, it does restrict your arms and everything like that, so it feels very real. I have no idea. Like, this is kind of what we're looking at in terms of the corset and whatnot. It's fine. I think it's done very well, actually. Let's see if we can get it to focus in. What are we dealing with in the back? Do we have nope. Okay, so it's an open back. And if we were to take the coat off, we've got two straps that go up here, and they're painted on. They're not actually sculpted. And then the hair frames around, and we have the choker. It's not a bad design. This is a solid figure. I don't think that I'm interested in going without the jacket right now. I think that in terms of my shelf, she's going to have the jacket. I think we're going to probably do two fists, though. So I'm going to have to pull the jacket up a little bit and get her hands out of there. But she's solid. I like her. I think she really does work. I like the belt. I like the pants. I like the jacket. I really like this. The hair also, if you haven't been noticing, it's malleable and it's getting out of my way. It is not restricting me from head turns. She can't look up. She can't really look down. But I actually don't think that's the hair this time. I think it's the choker. I think the choker is blocking the chin when she tries to look down. And I'm not sure. It's probably more or less the hair and the jacket when she tries to look up. You could probably get more range out of the neck if you take it off. I don't know. Now, there is another version of her that doesn't have the fishnets. Throughout time that I've known her, I've seen the fishnets a lot. So when I was picking between the two, in terms of the pre-order, I did pick the fishnets, and I did not even consider the idea of trying to track down the platinum, because I think the platinum, she just has nylons, which is fine, but they're also painted nylons. They're not actual nylon. That would not be a bad figure either. And I think the top is black on that one. I don't know. I could be wrong, but the top is black. One could argue I've seen the black top more often than I've seen the blue top. So almost like a mix and match. For me, it would have been real nice if the top would have been the black one and the bottom would have been the fishnets, and then it would have swapped and the nylon would have had the blue. But I think she's fine. I think she really works. I do need to kind of figure out how I'm going to work with the faces, because I think I'm going to have to pop the head off and kind of figure out exactly how, because it feels like you got to grab the cheeks and pull out, and you got to have a pretty good grip when you do it. I don't have any nails or anything right now, so it's not really helping me, but I like her. I think she's solid. And I think she's a character that on the shelf, in terms of a talking point, people will know who she is, but they won't know much about her. And it kind of brings in one of those interesting things. Sometimes when you have a collection like this, somebody will be like, who's that? Or, oh, I've seen her at so-and-so or whatever. And then it kind of gives you a chance to kind of be like, dude, I love her, blah, 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 blah. And kind of go through all the things that we just did as to why I actually think she is as cool as I think that she is. And a lot of those talking points don't get brought up because, like, when is the last time that you were talking about Black Canary? Like I said, when you walk in the room and you go, what are your 5 DC characters? I have never asked that question and heard Black Canary as one of those 5. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. But in terms of the circles that I have been in and the people that I have talked to, I have never, ever come across that. Ever. Never heard it. But I do think she's very cool. She wouldn't even make my top 5. Like if I'm sitting here and you're like, Bill, what are the top 5? I'm not going to say her, but I will say this. I'm curious with the fishnets and her design and the jacket and everything. Does she make the top 10? Like if I was to go back through and do another 10 list of my DC McFarlane figures, because I think I have that list. Was it a 5 or a 10? I can't remember. But I did a top list for DC. I actually think I broke that down. I think I had an overall, and then I had like a Batman, and then I think I may have done a Superman. I can't remember. They may have been top 5 or something like that. But I did a top list. She might be unique enough and cool enough that she kind of makes it and squeezes in there into a top 10 because she's unique beyond a lot of the other figures that exist in the line, because she does have this coat, and she does have these biker shorts that, like, they feel like they work. Because a lot of them, I always say they got like a diaper on them. And I know you know exactly what I'm talking about. But this like feels right. It's hard to explain, but like the material and everything, it feels right that it is the way that it is. And then the corset, and then you got the jacket, and you got this, and you got the boots, and the boots are all the way laced up. Maybe you could argue it needed a couple more paint apps. Like maybe it would have been cool to add something into the boots. But then again, the boots are probably perfectly right. That's probably black string and everything like that. I think she's done very, very well. My biggest concern with her was literally the fishnets and the face. Behind the plastic, behind the window, I was looking at that face and I was like, I don't think I like that at all. But outside of that window, like seeing that smirk and actually getting a little closer up to her face and everything like that, and seeing how they did the cheekbone structure and everything, that's a decent sculpt. I personally like it. If you don't, I don't care. Don't put her on your shelf. I like her. I think she works out for me. She's going on my shelf. I'm happy with her. Let's see. I love Black Canary in the Justice League Unlimited. Oh, Green Arrow in Justice League Unlimited was great. I'll say this. I do remember liking him more there than most any other time I have seen him, but he has never been my favorite. That's incredible because Batman can beat cancer smoking a box of cigarettes a day. Black Canary fought Wonder Woman in an underground fight club with all women fight club. It was crazy. Oh, I do tend to, yeah, I forgot that does, yeah. Jake, is that in a comic story or the Justice League cartoon? Because that sounds epic. No, I just made that up. No, that sounds, I don't know if it's, I'm not going to say it's like a fight club, but I remember, is my mind playing a weird trick? Because I feel like I'm remembering something here now that you've said that. Like, that feels, I don't think it was exactly the way that you put it, but I feel like I've seen something like that. Are you sure they didn't fight? I'm looking at a thing. I don't know what this is, but I'm seeing them in a boxing ring, and they look like they're squared up to fight or something. No, maybe it's not her, because now I just seen, I don't know. Oh, no. I apologize. That's Lady Shiva. It was Black Canary versus Lady Shiva, and from the picture I was seeing, I was wondering if it was a different form Wonder Woman. And there is an episode where I thought all the girls in the Justice League were put into a fighting thing, and it was like it was like Black Canary. Oh, I'm trying to remember. Was Huntress there? Did they all have to fight Wonder Woman? Is that what I'm remembering? I thought they were in like some sort of a thing where they were put in a situation. I think it's the cartoon, and they all had to fight Wonder Woman. So it was like Black Canary, I think Hawkgirl, Huntress. Was Vixen there? Was there more? And they all have to fight Wonder Woman, and they're in like an arena or something. Oh man, now I have to go back and I have to watch the cartoon. Because I know that you're saying that this is like a joke and that you like made it up. But I think something like that actually did happen. I think it's in the cartoon. I feel like that's a real thing. Oh, is that what it was? Yeah, because that feels like, yeah. Because like I'm sitting here like, that's like sparking memories in my mind. Like I remember seeing it to the point where when I read that, it didn't feel like a joke. It felt like you were telling me something that actually happened. And I'm almost positive that something like that did happen. I'm laughing my ass off. Great imagination. No, Bill, because he's Batman. If I get the platinum Black Canary, she's the one I'm going to open up to add to my Justice League shelf. I'm definitely going to keep the regular one in the box just because I love her look. Plus, I don't want to mess the fishnets up. I feel like they may tear easily. I'm not sure. And when I just went over it, yes, if you open this one, be careful. There is a tactile sensation about touching the fishnets. It's kind of wild. And I have one other figure that has these fishnets. And yes, I imagine you can tear these easily. And I imagine that if you end up messing them up and you have to tear them off the figure and then you just have the bare legs, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But like the fishnets are such a big part of it that I think, yeah, you're right. I very much get what you're saying. But like there's a tactile feeling about feeling the real fishnets on the legs that's wild. And then I have a Harley Quinn that has the same thing. So that's the reason I was very interested when they said they were doing this, is I was like, how will the fishnets work? Like I'm very interested in that. If you were to cast an actress, who would you cast as Black Canary? I think, personally, I don't think she has the acting talent for it. But I think if you went back a decade, like to when we were doing things like, when we're doing things like the Expendables, I'm going to tell you that I would pick Ronda Rousey. Because she already has an actual fighting career. She feels like she probably has the body for it. She is blonde. She kind of looks tough in the face. Ronda always kind of had a tough face. And I feel like she would really take to it because of what it is. It's supposed to be a woman with actual fighting talent, and her power is the canary call, which is a powerful power, but everything else that she would be doing would rely on her actual physicality, and she would have that. She would have that proven in the real world, and she would have that in movie set, where like when she has done action movies, she's been able to very much pull that off because she's done it for real. So I feel like the attitude and the presence would be there. I don't feel like she's a good actress. I know that surprises people because she's not an actress, so don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I don't expect her to be a good actress. I'm not here like, Ronda's probably one of the worst actresses I've ever seen in my life. She's not an actress. She's not an actress. They took somebody that already knew how to fight, and then they put her in a role because they knew that they could utilize the skill set that they wanted. And I think that's pretty much where you would end up. I think that you'd have to have real actors surrounding her to play off and kind of guide her through. Because we've seen people that are not good actors put in good performances because the other people are kind of holding up the performance as we go. This happens. In fact, one could argue Conan the Barbarian, Arnold, is a terrible actor. He's not good acting in that movie. That's the reason they keep his lines down. It's the reason they're careful about the things they give him to do. He became a better actor over time. And anytime they put him in a role where they weren't 100% sure of what to do with him, they would purposely surround him with actors that could hold him in place, and you were paying attention to them and kind of how he bounced off of them. It worked. I think that it worked. And then he became a better actor as time went on. I don't think he ever became a great actor, but I think he became a good enough actor to do all the kinds of things that he wanted to do, and I give him credit for everything that he pulled off. He was a bodybuilder that was chosen for the function that he was doing, just like a lot of comedians are chosen because they're funny, not because they're actors. That's not necessarily a bad thing if you're casting them in the right things. So I think that I would have went with a real fighter. I think that would have been my step one. And to put this into perspective as well, though, that also entitles that a bunch of other real fighters could have been moved into that role, because like dyeing your hair blonde is not exactly something that's difficult to do and is done in Hollywood all the time. So it's not like you would have trouble being like, this person looks the part, has the fighting potential, let's do this. Let's do this. So, yeah, I think that's where I would go. First, off the top of my head, I'm going to go Ronda, but that's only because of the situation that I explained. If I'm moving actress-wise and we teach an actress how to look like they know how to fight, that opens up a door and I'm not 100% sure what direction I'm going with it. Because then, if we're picking an actress, we're not trying to capture the fighting part. We're trying to pick an actress, somebody that can act out something. And that's a different idea altogether. Like, altogether. Because picking an actor means that you're trying to tell a story, you need an actor. And the fighting is secondary. You're going to fake that. That's fine. But if you want this fighting girl to look like she can fight, just like in a lot of Bruce Lee movies, he did fighting in his choreography, and the fighters that he picked were bad actors because they were fighters first. They were people that actually competed in martial arts tournaments and things of that nature, and then they would work with him and things like that. So like he was picking them because he wanted to showcase fighting talent first, acting second. So there's a different way to go with that. So yeah, the Black Canary thing, if my goal is to push the fighting first, that is the biggest part of the character that I'm trying to push to the forefront, and then make you believe that she could actually take down 80% of the men that she's standing around. She needs to be a fighter first. So I need to pull from fighting. I need to pull from actual fighting ladies. And then, like I said, we're probably dyeing their hair because nowadays I don't know if I would go with her. I did make a stipulation that I'm going like 10 years ago. If I'm not doing that, then I think that I'm going to have to look across the fighters and kind of pick one that kind of hits me. But she also has to be good, and she has to be proven enough that I feel like I could believe her in that role if we're pushing fighting first. So that's kind of where my mind falls on all of that. No, I made a joke that Batman would shrink down to atom level to fight cancer cells. Oh, and I forgot to ask this. What do you think of Jason's Lobo now that we have a better look at him for the trailers? Dude, we knew he was born to play some Lobo. Like, dude, every single time somebody said, who would you make him if Jason Momoa had to come over to DC? And I said over and over and over again, it's Lobo. It's Lobo. It's not even a question. It's Lobo. That's who he is. That's who he comes into play. And then I couldn't believe it when they were like, Aquaman. And I was like, what? What? Why? What? Who came up with that? Why? Like, I could not fathom that for the life of me. Aquaman. And there was not a time in any one of those movies where I watched a single moment where I didn't say, that's Jason Momoa. I never once said, oh, there's Aquaman. Every single time I was like, Jason does this scene. Yada, like, I'm not losing myself in the character. I don't believe it. He doesn't work for me. I pick Liv Morgan. All right. I would cast Sydney Sweeney on all female roles. It's actually harder than you think. Well, I don't know. I've seen an awful lot of girls go blonde with dyeing. And where it might be difficult, I would also say this. They could also do a blonde wig. I don't think it's that hard. I mean, yeah, I guess it could be tough, but like, I've seen too many girls do it to make me feel like it can't be done, especially when you have a literal multi-million-dollar makeup crew standing behind you. I just feel like it's not. Maybe it's difficult for like regular people, but I don't know. I don't see it. I think that you can easily do it. So that's that. We got 3 figures added. That's probably 5 chapters that I'll have to cut in this video, but I got to get back to editing. I got to get back to doing, and I got to walk my dog and everything like that. Busy day today, but I did want to get in. I did want to do the Hangout. I do think that these will probably be easier to do as more morning, afternoon Hangouts than like at night in terms of where we are currently with everything that we're doing. So, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it. And I will catch you guys later. And we also have a couple of regular videos that are probably going to be sprinkled into the chapters this week. Especially if my figures arrive. I got 2 figures on the way, and I don't think I'm waiting for them to be voted on. I'll catch you guys later.